Welcome to the Denali Business Accounting demonstration. Denali Business Accounting is a complete accounting solution for your growing business. Denali can be customized and scaled according to your business needs. You can pick and choose which accounting modules you need for your business and then add additional modules as your business grows. All Denali users will have the Controller module included with their Denali package. The Denali Controller is the module where you set up and maintain your company database. With the Denali Controller, you set up your company file here. You also set up the users and security that will be using your company file. And Denali Security is very secure. You can specify for each user to give them access to the specific parts of the accounting modules that they will need access to, or you can drill down to give them specific access to each function within each accounting module. The supervisors and users who are in control can have full access to all of the Denali system if needed. The fiscal calendar in Denali can go out for 5 years as you run your business. That way you can keep up to 5 years open as needed. When you close out a fiscal year in the general ledger, the fiscal calendar will automatically roll forward to the next year, which in this example would make the current year 2019, and it would add 2023 for year 5. Controller is also where you run the maintenance tasks such as backup and restore for your company database. The Denali accounting modules are accessed through the toolbar at the top of your screen. You can click on any one of these toolbar buttons to go to the specific accounting module as needed. So to go to General Ledger, you just click on the GL button and that takes you to the General Ledger module. The General Ledger is where your core accounting is set up in your organization. In Denali, you can have a simple general ledger or you can be as complex as you need for your reporting needs. When setting up your chart of accounts in General Ledger, you can do a simple account structure. In this example, we have a 4-digit account number for our chart of accounts, but you can expand on that as your business grows. You can create larger account numbers, or you can have different parts of your account number to show your financial statements by program or division or department or project or however you need to track your financial records. When setting up your chart of accounts, the account numbers can be set up in the system for the specific account types as needed. You can have assets, liabilities, or be more specific with current assets, fixed assets, long-term and current liabilities, equity accounts, income and expense accounts to the specific expenses as needed. You can keep this as simple or as complex as you need for your growing business. When setting up your accounts, the accounts are used for financial reporting. The accounts are used to create reports such as your balance sheet and income statement that you would need to run for your organization. When running those reports, you have several options in the Denali system. You've got the basic income statement, or you can do the more advanced reports such as the profit and loss statement, which gives you your income and expense accounts broken out in the various income and expense categories. Denali has several hundred reports that come with the accounting program. And all reports that you see in the Denali system can be customized with the Crystal Reports Editor program as needed. General Ledger offers extensive budgeting options as well to allow you to create a budget that goes out up to 5 years for budgeting and forecasting. And therefore you can create your budget reports to see how well you are staying with your budget. The budget reports will show your actual for the current period, the year-to-date actuals, the amount budgeted, and how much you are within or over budget as needed for your organization. General ledger will track all revenues and expenses, all assets, liabilities, and equities, and all financial records for your organization. And if you need to make adjustments to your financial records, you can enter basic journal entries here in the general ledger as well. Journal entries are very simple in Denali. The entry date, entry description, and then your account numbers, debiting or crediting the account, and the amount. As long as the debits and credits match with no difference, the general ledger will allow for the journal entry to be saved. If your debits and credits do not match, you get an error that says the transaction is not in balance, and it will require you to balance the transaction to allow you to save. That way you keep everything balanced as needed for your general ledger. Denali has additional advanced features for grouping accounts together for reporting purposes and for exporting information so that you can run your own custom reports as needed in the system. This is an example of period totals being exported to Microsoft Excel to generate totals for each period or month in the system for each of your general ledger accounts. All financial transactions from all other modules will automatically flow to the general ledger to automatically generate your financial reports as needed. And each financial report has several options. This is where you get several choices to choose from. And if these reports are not going to process the information you need, you can also install custom reports to be used as well that uses the data processed through the Denali system to generate those reports. The Denali Bank Reconciliation is the bank account and cash management system for your Denali accounting. With the Bank Reconciliation, you can set up bank accounts in your business that you will be tracking your business revenues and expenses and the cash management for your organization. The bank accounts can be set up to track your expenses, your revenues, any checks that post to the bank, any deposits that are made, and the system will keep track of all the transactions going in and out of your bank through Denali's Bank Reconciliation module. In the Bank Rec module, you can enter manual bank activity such as bank deposits, bank deductions and additions, a cash transaction for entering bank checks. Those can be entered manually. However, checks that are entered to pay vendors in accounts payable or payroll in the payroll module will automatically flow to the bank accounts here in the bank module so that you can reconcile those bank accounts when you receive your monthly bank statements. The reconciliation is very simple. You enter the closing statement balance here and you check off the transactions that are already included and listed on the current month's bank statement. And Denali now has, with our new upgrade, the feature to automatically reconcile with your bank. By automatically reconciling the bank statement, Denali will connect to your bank and retrieve those transactions from your bank and match those up for you, therefore saving you the time to go through each transaction one at a time to check those off. The system automatically matches those and reconciles those with your records to save much time in bank reconciliation. Denali also has a very powerful accounts payable program that allows you to track expenses and who you pay expenses to in your organization, to track your vendors and your suppliers. With Denali's accounts payable, you can set up your vendor accounts to track vendor information and vendor history, which will link back to the expenses that go to the general ledger. Denali offers many options for finding information as needed. With the vendor tracking, you have vendor history here, and if you double-click any transaction in the system, it will automatically generate a report to show you what the information is for that specific transaction. In this case, we have a payment that we submitted to that vendor, and this report shows the invoices that payment was applied to for that vendor. Entering expenses in accounts payable is simple with Denali. We enter vendor invoices through the Enter Bills function. Those invoices can be entered in with your vendor tracking, invoice numbers, and the expenses for the invoices. When the invoices are entered, you can program your vendors to default to the correct expense category in the general ledger. And that saves you time and effort to determine what category those need to be expensed to. Once the bills are entered, you can also pay bills through the accounts payable system to generate the payments and the checks that those bills will be for. You select what vendor you're paying, and then you simply select which invoices or bills you're going to pay for that vendor. Denali also has an automatic payment to allow you to generate payments for all vendors up through a certain date range. That way you can do your check runs each month or each week or however often you pay bills in your business automatically through the Prepare Payments automatic function. Accounts Payable has several payable reports that you can track expenses with as well, and even 1099 processing. Report examples can be displayed by clicking on the Reports menu here to get the sample report. All transactions will flow back to the general ledger to create your financial statements as needed. And Denali also offers a secure audit trail, which will give detailed transaction information for each account for the period that you run the report for. The audit trail will show you transaction reference numbers in numeric sequence and the user in which those transactions were posted. So you can track who is doing what in your organization. If your organization requires that you manage and maintain an inventory and you need specialized inventory tracking, Denali's inventory module is a great solution to help with your inventory tracking. With Denali Inventory, you can set up your inventory stock items with as much detailed information that you will need for your business. You can do inventory pricing based on your price that you sell the items for. The system also tracks your cost for those items as well. And you have cost tracking based on the inventory valuation. Denali is fully compatible with all valuation types, such as FIFO, LIFO, weighted average, and standard cost as needed. Inventory items can also have pictures attached to the item so that you can identify those items with an image as needed. Item history is tracked for all items in the inventory. Vendor tracking is also tracked for your suppliers who you purchase the items from and the last cost that you purchased those items from those vendors. So you can track the best value with your suppliers when you purchase inventory. The inventory module is automatic through the transactions that come through accounts payable and the sales. Accounts payable and purchase order transactions will automatically add items to inventory as you put in vendor invoices from your suppliers. The sales module will automatically subtract items from inventory as you sell those items to your customers. But if you need to make simple inventory adjustments and inventory counts, the Denali system has a very easy system to help you with that. So to put in your inventory count, you simply put in your stock number. Your stock numbers can be anything you want them to be. In my example here, I'm using barcode numbers, and then you enter the count that you count for those stock items that you have on hand. The system will automatically make an adjustment to correct that count. In this example, Denali says we have 34 on hand, but I just only counted 32. So the system will generate a minus adjustment of 2 in order to correct my count to the 32 quantity that I counted. The barcode numbers are compatible with the Denali system. Any plug-and-play scanner can be used in Denali to scan in barcodes for your stock numbers if needed. You can also set up inventory kits or bill of material items. So the bill of material items, those are items that are actually made up of other components in your system. And this feature allows you to enter transactions for the bill of material items when you're adding those stock items to your inventory. Denali automatically subtracts the components that are needed to make up those stock items. That way you can assemble those stock items or those kits, and the system will automatically account for all the parts and pieces that make up for those inventory kit items. Adjustments can also be generated through automatic scanner control. Denali is compatible with several different scanner models to scan the inventory items and enter the quantity in order to make those adjustments. Or you can import inventory adjustments and inventory prices as well. Denali Inventory has several inventory reports to help you track inventory on hand and stock value as needed. The inventory system can track all inventory activity for each and every stock item as needed. And those transactions will automatically post to give you the tracking of each and every stock item, and then you have a history of those items. This report is the monthly movement report, which shows the activity for each stock item across an entire year for each month. And you get the year-to-date totals. So this report will give you an idea of which stock items are doing better for you and which ones are not doing so well, to help you decide what you want to sell in your business. Now, in the Denali system, the accounts payable will track expenses and vendor tracking and also purchases from your suppliers. But if you need a more robust system for controlling your buying and your expensing to control your purchases, you can set up the purchase order module. With Denali Purchase Order, you will have complete control over who is authorized to purchase items for your organization. The purchase order can also be programmed to work with the inventory directly to automatically receive your inventory stock items. Purchase orders can be set up through requisitions and through direct purchase orders as needed. When using the requisition option, your employee will enter a purchase requisition from a specific vendor or supplier, and then they will designate who the manager is in your organization that will approve that requisition. Once the requisition is approved, it automatically becomes an actual purchase order to be submitted to the supplier. If you don't need the requisition option, you can go directly to the purchase order and enter the purchase order to be submitted directly to your supplier if you are a manager or a user that is authorized in your organization to generate purchase orders. And the purchase orders are filled out in the system. You select who the supplier is, and you select what items you are purchasing from that supplier and how many. The system will generate a purchase order. You can put in estimated freight if you'd like, and you can also include the freight to be part of the value of your stock items going into the inventory using the purchase order landing features. Or you can exclude the freight to be part of the stock value and just set it up to where it's just a direct expense line item. You can order as many different items on the purchase order as needed. Once the purchase orders are entered in and saved, they are submitted to the vendors. Then when the stock items are received, you can enter a simple receiving transaction that will receive those stock items for you. That way you don't have to fill out the purchase order again or fill out the vendor invoice again. So your options for receiving, if you receive only, that will put these stock items into inventory, but it will not put in the vendor invoice to accounts payable. Then later on, when the invoice comes, you do the invoice option. However, if the invoice comes with the shipment, which probably happens most of the time, then you can do the receive and invoice option all at once. You enter in the quantity received, or there is an option to receive all, which is a simple, quick way to add all quantities to the receiving transaction as needed. When the purchase order has been completed, you just simply check the complete box, and that closes out that purchase order. If you want to leave the purchase order open for future transactions, you don't check the box, leave that unchecked. Unlike the other modules, you have certain purchase order reports that you can run as well, such as vendor performance. Any items that you had expected that haven't been received yet, you can run a report for those as well, and it will show those items that are ordered that should have been received by the expected date and have not been received yet. And the reporting options will bring up that information here. The purchase order can also be set up to automatically generate purchase orders based on your inventory quantity on hand and available quantities. When you generate purchase orders automatically, Denali will automatically look at all inventory items, and if any items are below the minimum quantity set up on the stock item in the inventory module, the system will automatically generate a purchase order for that stock item. So in this example, we have a stock item here that has a minimum quantity of 5, a minimum quantity of 5, and a maximum quantity of 50. I currently have 18 available, so therefore, the automatic order will not generate an order for this stock item because I have more than my minimum. Any stock items that are below minimum will automatically generate that order. Here's an example that has a minimum of 5, and I only have 2 available. So therefore, this order will be triggered for this stock item when I run the automatic, because I'm down to below 5 minimum. The amount of the order will be based on the maximum. With only 2 available, I put 10 in as my maximum. Denali will automatically create a purchase order to order 8 more to get me back up to my 10. The minimum triggers the order, the maximum tells us how many to order. And you can set that up on each and every stock item in your system to utilize the purchase order's automatic ordering feature. When I click OK, these are the list of all the stock items that were below minimum and how many will be ordered for each stock item. In this order, we're using the primary vendor, so there will be a separate purchase order for each vendor. So I have one vendor here, but I have the same vendor listed 2 more times for 2 different stock items. So all 3 of these line items will be on the same purchase order. But I'll have a different purchase order for this vendor, for this one, for this vendor, and then one purchase order for these 4 items because they're all on the same vendor. If I don't want to order any items in this list, I just uncheck the select box, and that item will not be included on the purchase order. So far, we've covered the payables and purchasing side of your business with the Denali system and how it can help you keep track of your accounting. Now let's talk about the receivables side, the revenue and the income for your business. Denali has a great system that helps you process orders and track customer accounts in your receivables. So it starts with the Accounts Receivable module in the Denali system. Here is where you keep track of all of your customers, and you can put in all customer information as needed, billing and shipping addresses, contact information for customers. The system will keep track of the customer accounts, their amounts due, and whether they're past due or current. Transaction history, and on customer accounts, you can run the history and you can identify specifically what each of these transactions are for in the history. Here we have an example of a customer payment. I can double click that payment and I get a report to show which invoices that payment was applied to, which customer invoices. And I only have one invoice in this example that payment was applied to here. In the history, I can also run an item history and recall any specific invoices that I want to recall from the history. If I want to retrieve an actual invoice, I just double click it in the customer history account and the invoice will pop up on the screen. In Accounts Receivable, you can enter miscellaneous payments and adjustment transactions with a simple transaction entry screen. And you can also run all of your Accounts Receivable reports, such as customer aging, collections, past due, invoice to payment for running history, or a history report for your customers. Accounts Receivable can be set up to calculate finance charges on past due accounts and run customer monthly statements for your customers as well. The Accounts Receivable module in Denali tracks your customer account and customer history. But the customer invoicing is done through the Denali Sales module. And in Denali, the Sales module for customer invoicing is the customer order entry. So we go to the Sales module and we go to the order entry to work with orders. Now in the Sales module, when you first go in, You have the sales administration screen, kind of like your controller for your business. This is your controller for your sales. And then you're going to select on the order entry task to get to your order entry for customer invoicing. And you have a nice workflow for entering orders and processing your orders for customer invoicing and sales. When you open the order entry screen, it loads up the invoice entry, kind of like what you saw in purchase order, but this is for customer invoices, not for vendor purchase orders. So we can select our customer, and then we can select the items that we are selling to our customer. Items can have additional functionality added to them, such as additional descriptions or additional charges for services rendered or freight or anything that you want to add to those items. You can also delete rows from the sales invoice entry. You can insert blank rows, insert additional line items, or you can also put in just a basic comment on the invoice. And you can specify what the comment is for your specific invoice. You may need to type in a specific description for this transaction for the customer. The order entry gives you additional options such as discounting items if you are a user that is authorized to discount. You can set security in place to block discounting as needed. You can also bring up the information for the stock item, such as the item picture, so you can see what that picture looks like, kind of like we saw in the inventory module, what that stock item is there. And then you save the invoice to process that invoicing to your customer. Order entry also gives you additional options, such as writing up customer quotes, or you can also do work orders and implement a system where you require the customer to pay a deposit on the work order if needed. The invoicing is the final step in which the customer is billed for that product or those services provided, and then those payments are entered through accounts receivable. Once the invoices are entered, you can print the invoices, send those to your printer, or we can go to the screen and we'll see those on the screen here. There's several other options if you need, such as your picking tickets, packing slips, and so forth. If you need to print up packing slips, that is also an option as well. Packing slips look a lot like the invoice, but they do not have pricing. They just have the list of items that are ordered for that particular order with no pricing. In the sales module, you also have many different reports that you can run. You can keep track of sales by salesperson, by department, a pure product sales report, which just gives you total sales for a specific date range. You can do sales by items. With our point of sale, you can do sales by register. We'll talk about point of sale in a moment. You also have various transaction reports for cash or credit card receipts, Cayenne transactions. Denali sales module integrates with Cayenne Merchant Services to give you a full credit card processing system that's fully integrated with Denali if needed. Several other sales reports that you can track as well, so that you can keep track of the sales that you have coming in as needed. Denali also has an optional point of sale system that you can fully integrate and incorporate into your sales module. And if you have the point of sale system, then you will have the option to select the point of sale tasks, which brings up your workflow for entering cash register sales. This is used if you have a storefront and you do cash register sales. The point of sale comes with a complete hardware and software solution for your business. You can implement a touchscreen system to process sales transactions quick and easily, and then you can go ahead and enter those transactions in the system. Customer comes in, wants to buy one of the leather chairs. There's my pricing for that chair. I have additional information I can add to that. And then when I tender the sale, the total sale comes to $74.58 if the customer gives me $80 cash. When I click done, the cash register drawer will pop open and the receipt printer prints out a receipt, and it will show me that there is change due for that sale of $5.42. I can also add a customer to my sale to track that into my customer history from accounts receivable. So I can have sales to my existing customers that I am tracking as well, and the system will allow me to track the history of those customer sales. And with accounts receivable, the customer has the option to charge on account. So if they come in and say, go ahead and bill me for that sale, I can do that through AR charge, which is accounts receivable, and that will add this sale to their customer balance in accounts receivable and add it to their customer monthly statement as needed. However, with this customer being past due, manager override will be required, which is another security feature. And I get the warning here, the customer is past due. Are you sure you want to proceed with this? The system allows me to do this because I am the manager. If I was a regular sales clerk, it would ask for a manager override. The manager would have to come and log in with their credentials to authorize this sale. And then at the end of the day, you close down the cash register, you run your closing reports, which is like your Z report from the cash register. You balance the register to make sure that the transactions that you have in the system have the correct amount of cash in the drawer to account for the transactions that were posted for that day. And if everything is balanced, the cash register is in balance. You count the currency count to make sure that everything is in balance. Once it's all balanced out, we close out the day by posting the sales. And that closes out the register for the day and resets the register for the next day's sales. So with Denali accounting system, you have a complete accounting solution. All of these modules we talked about, you can add as needed, or you can only select the modules that you need for your business and add the additional modules later as your business grows. Now, if you also have employees in your business and you would like a full in-house payroll solution, Denali's payroll module is a perfect solution to help you process your own payroll transactions. With Denali Payroll, you have a simplified payroll processing system and employee tracking that will manage your employees and your payroll for you. The employee tracking can be set up to track employee information, employees' name, address, and all of their information as needed. And I'm going to clear my current payroll batch real quick so I can show you the employee tracking. The employee tracking allows you to enter employee information for your employees that work for your organization, employee name, address, social security number, filing status, which is very important to calculate how the taxes are calculated on their paychecks. Year-to-date summary shows the current year-to-date transactions in the system with the year-to-date totals at the bottom. The pay rates and taxes, you can set up multiple pay rates for each employee as needed. In this example, I've got 4 different pay rates based on the employee's job that they work for my organization here. And then I've got the payroll taxes that we can set up as well for the employee. Some employees that I have set up are a little more simple. This one only has 2 pay rates. There's one with 3 pay rates, but only 1 state tax code and 1 federal code to calculate federal and state taxes. Okay, here's a simplified employee. Most of your employees may be like this, where they just work under 1 pay rate for a specific pay amount. And this is an hourly amount. And then they have their federal and state tax information filled in at the bottom, as filled in on their W-4 form. Denali is fully capable of tracking employee benefits, such as healthcare plans, 401k plans, retirement plans, or any other benefits or deductions you need to calculate for your employees. You can also set up paid vacation, paid holidays, PTO, paid time off, and the system can automatically be set up to accrue those hours that the employee earns as they work for your system, for your company. Denali also does direct deposit. You can set up direct deposit to where your paychecks are directly deposited to the employee's bank account. And you can even set it up to split their paycheck across multiple accounts like we have here in this system. Here's an employee that only has 1 account set up, so 100% of their check will go to that account. You can also put employee notes and attach documentation to the employee record as well. This is a really handy tool for attaching forms like their W-4 form, their I-9 form, or any other employee forms that you need to track in the system. They can be attached to their account here in Denali Payroll, and then you have a quick link or access to those documents right here. Once your employees are set up in the system, The system is capable of tracking hours or daily units and having those hours imported so that you can automatically calculate the payroll from the hours that are imported, or you can enter those hours manually on a daily basis as needed. Once the hours are entered in, you simply start here to process your payroll every pay period. Start with the first step and follow the workflow all the way through to generate your payroll. And this is the easy part in Denali. Every time it comes time to run payroll, you just fill out your payroll information, you put in your pay period end date and check pay date and so forth. When you click this button here, if your hours were entered in prior or imported, then it'll automatically bring in those hours to the current payroll system. But you don't have to import or enter your hours ahead of time. If you want to wait till the end of the period and enter hours in, you can do that here in the grid. For example, we have one employee that has no hours for this pay period. So I just simply click Edit, type in their hours, and hit Done. And now the system automatically calculates their gross pay, their deductions, taxes, and net pay with the hours that I've entered in. The other employees had hours already entered. Oh, we have one down here at the bottom with no hours. We'll go ahead and put in hours for them. The gross pay is calculated based on the pay rates that are set up for the employee. The deductions are calculated automatically based on the deductions and benefits that are set up for the employee as well. But by clicking Edit here, like I just did, it opens up the details so you can see what those deductions are. Now we have an addition here, so we're actually adding $25 as incentive to this employee's check. Taxes are also calculated automatically based on the taxes that are set up for the employee. If you click Edit, you can see the breakdown of how those taxes are calculated. Once all of the hours are entered in and the gross pays and net pay is verified, you just simply click Next to go to the next step, which is your payroll report. This is a detailed report that shows you each and every paycheck, and at the end of the report, you get the payroll totals that show you the payroll expenses broken down by your different departments in your organization as needed. This is the first check, here's the second check, and so forth. And at the end of my report, I go to the end, back up one page, and I go to the report totals. The report totals shows me the total payroll expenses broken down by department in my organization. Also broken down by regular time, other time 1, which is typically used for overtime, other time 2 for other pay and leave time, which is used for paid vacation, and then any additional pay that we added to the employee's paycheck as needed. And then I have tax summary, which shows totals for each tax code in the system. Now, most clients are probably just going to have the one federal code and maybe 1 or 2 state codes. But in my company, I've got several different states and even some local tax codes that I've set up to illustrate that Denali is fully capable of working with multi-state and local tax agencies. And then you get total check summary at the bottom. So this is the step we were at, the edit report, which is our payroll report. Once we run that report, we can now print the checks. After the checks are printed, we do a check register. And so every time I click next, it just takes me from one step to the next in my workflow automatically. The next step after that is my pre-posting reports. These are the reports that shows me my total benefits and deductions for the current pay period, broken down by the specific benefit or deduction as needed. There's additions, there's my benefits. Benefits are company paid items. There's my total benefits. Deductions are employee paid items, items that are deducted from the employee's gross pay. Benefits are not deducted from the gross pay because they are company paid benefits. You can even set up court-ordered garnishments or child support garnishments as needed. The next report in your payroll processing is what we call the EFTPS report. EFTPS is the Electronic Federal Tax Payment System. And this report shows you the total federal employee taxes, company and employee taxes combined, that you need to submit as a payment to the IRS for this current payroll batch. It's broken down by Social Security, Medicare, withholding tax, and the total is my total $941 tax payment. This report also includes your $940 unemployment tax if applicable. The next step is the direct deposits. Generate your direct deposit file, and then you get a report that shows you the direct deposit disbursement for all of your employees. Now, this report can be set to where it prints the employee's bank account number and routing number on this report as well. But for security, I've told my system to exclude that information when running this report. You can have that information excluded or included on this report if needed. And the final step is finalizing your payroll, which means we post the payroll transactions. What that does is that will post the employee paychecks to the bank reconciliation module to track the checks coming out of the bank, the payroll liabilities to accounts payable, and all of my payroll expenses to the general ledger to show up on my profit and loss statement automatically. So that completes the demonstration for the Denali Business Accounting Program. For more information, give us a call at 1-800-388-3038 and we can set up a more specialized demonstration one-on-one with your organization to answer any additional questions that you have or to see any other information of what Denali can do for you. So give us a call. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for your time and have a great day.